So, any questions for me before we get started? Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Lisa. Thank you.
Thank y'all for coming today. I think there's a lot of new faces that I don't know, and that's unusual here at the campus because I usually meet everybody. But I want to introduce the training team. I'm Lisa Kiefer, and I'm the Department Chair for Developmental Studies. And then we have, go ahead.
Jamie Childress, Dean of Enrollment, Registrar.
And we have
Jamie Stephanie, Proficiency.
Jeanette Foster, Developmental Reading and English teacher.
And last but not least,
Ann Peacock, Director of Financial Aid.
all right. So how we're going to begin today is I'm going to let Danette give you a little background. She's kind of like our lead DRE person for the department, and so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Good morning. Good morning.
Are you aware?
I am way. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll try to do better from this point forward. This is another part of the initiative that was started several years ago. It's called Completion by Design and Achieving the Dream. And there are two websites there that you'll be able to see when you see this presentation that you can get more information about. This one is specifically targeting the Accelerating Achievement Principle. It is based on the DEI initiative, and we all probably have heard something about that along the way. So we're continuing to work through those processes that they're asking us to do. First, of course, was the DMA changes, and now we're going to the developmental reading and English changes. One of the things that's interesting about CCC is that we have only taught English 90 and reading 80 and 90. So basically we're going from 3 courses to 6 courses, 2 separate subjects, and combining them to do in half the time. So it's going to be extremely challenging on our part and for the students, but we think we're going to have some good results. An advantage in this is that the students can finish their developmental reading and English in 1 semester and a half versus dragging it out. The semesters are actually going to be 8 weeks, but technically 7 because we have a week in between to move students and get people adjusted and that kind of thing. So if a student is motivated and wants to do well, they're going to be able to do it quickly, which we hope will be motivation for them to do developmental courses first, and they'll do better in their other courses. Because it only follows logically that they would do better if they've got these basic skills refreshed before they go into some other heavy text items, that kind of thing. The 3 courses are DRE 96, DRE 97, and DRE 98. They also have DRE 99, but we are not offering that here at CC. And 96 is the first level, 97, and then 98. Of course, we have, this is on the last slide I'm getting ready to do, but I'll go ahead and mention it. We have NC DAP test money for placement in reading and English. But until that time, we're going to be doing the crosswalk. We'll talk about today, which is one of the main reasons that we're here. Just one point that if a student scores below 35 on the reading comprehension placement test, they're going to need to take kind of like mastering math and basic skills before they actually can get into the DRE 096 course. Because that's the level that we've decided and concluded that they're just going to struggle really, really mightily if they don't have some of that help there. There are some gateway courses listed here, and we'll let you look at those in the booklet. Okay, this course will be a P or an R. P means you passed. R means you get to re-enroll. So we will have an 80% mastery-based content. No A's, B's, or anything along those lines. These courses will all focus on reading and writing strategies, critical thinking, but it's all going to be done in a contextual setting rather than pulled out isolated skills. If we do need specific skills in like grammar, things of that nature, there will be opportunities for that in lab settings, and we're also going to utilize our lovely Reading and Writing Center as much as possible. So we're hoping to have lots of students be able to take advantage of those offerings to fill in some of those gaps that we won't be able to do in that 7 weeks if they do need isolated skill refreshment. The classes are going to be circular in nature. We're going to do everything in a cycle. So we'll have pre-writing, writing, and post-writing, pre-reading, reading, and post-reading. And the writings are going to be based on rubrics for scoring purposes so we can have consistent grading. And the readings are going to be based on grade level, lexile levels. So we don't want the students to come in and feel intimidated by the text right off the bat, so all the courses will be Lexile level for grade appropriate readings at those levels for the 96, 97, and 98. We are also doing nonfiction text. There will be very, very little in the fiction area. There might be some poetry or something like that thrown in, but very, very rarely it's going to be based on nonfiction text because we believe that will further prepare them for what they're going to learn from curriculum people and in their careers. So we're hoping that that will be another realm of possibilities and get them even more interested in what we're doing. Now, we're also going to be doing reading strategies combined with writing strategies. We've already talked about that. And I wanted to tell you what the ultimate writing project would be at the end of these 3 courses. For 96, we want to have a fully developed, grammatically correct, concise, coherent, and complete paragraph. Good paragraph is awesome. We all know that. With the main idea and supporting details and correct tense, making everything agree. So that would be the goal for 96 and as we progress towards that. Of course, we'll be doing that all along, but that's going to be what we really, really want the students to be able to do well at the end. For 97, it'll be a 4 to 5 paragraph essay, so we're a little bit longer there. And then 98, it'll be a multi-page, 2 to 3 pages documented essay. So those are the goals for those 3 courses. We do want to continue to have rigorous standards for developmental ed because we feel that they really, really need us to give them that ground level setting to grow from, if you will. So we're really going to make sure that that happens because we know all of you guys will do that as well. And we did want to mention, as I said a moment ago, that the DAT test is coming. Ms. Brown's going to give you some more information about that as well as these other ladies. But until then, we're going to be using the crosswalk, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today. And in the booklet that you have, you've got all of the descriptions for exactly what all those courses are. So you can have some more information there. I'm certainly not going to read it to you. You can do that on your own. And if you've got any questions at any time, we're all going to be available for that. And please let me know as well. Thanks, guys.
Okay, registration. It's going to be as much fun with the DREs as it was for the DMAs. Okay, you're only going to be able to register students in DataTel, not in WebAdvisor. The reason for that is because we can't place rules on all of the classes and students will misregister themselves if we open it up in WebAdvisor. Therefore, only faculty will be able to get to it through DataTel. Okay, you're going to need to do it sequentially, just like you did for the DMAs. So instead of 141, 241, you're going to have 18 or 28, and you want to make sure that it's the same time block. We are staying with the 18 nomenclature rather than having another section identifier for 17. We're just going to keep it at 18, okay? Students can have a max of the 4 DMAs, because they're running every 4 weeks, or a max of DRE courses.
This is crazy. I wasted my time coming down here.
They're not able to,
They're just going on with it, and
okay.
I'm trying to read whatever that.
Hold on,
screen
guys.
says.
Hang on.
So there's no audio.
Yeah, audio, it should be showing up there like on theirs, and Pittsburgh is showing it up there.
So, in order to register the students, you are going to use the crosswalk, which the net has coined the jaywalk. But you're going to use the old placement test. We will have a new one coming, and Jamie Stifler will tell you about that in just a moment. That'll make it a little bit easier. But right now, we're going to have to do the crosswalk based on where their placements, the old reading, developmental English, figure out their gateway or goal English course for their program of study, and then use the crosswalk. Okay, so covered that. We go to the next one, I think. Okay, for all of these classes, just like the DMAs, they're going to have an 80% mastery. Okay? If they don't have an 80% mastery, then behind the scenes, we're going to drop them and add them. Lisa's doing most of that. Every now and then, somebody from my office will help her, but most of it's on her shoulders. Okay? Now, here's a key point. The students need to register for whatever they need up front whenever they sign up initially for their classes. this is going to tie into their financial aid needs that Ann will tell you about a little bit more. Okay? But if they don't sign up front, then they're not going to be able to take that next class if they're unsuccessful. So if they only need 2 DMAs and they're taking one in the first session and one in the third session, because let's say they need 20 and 40, okay? They've already got 10. Right? If they are unsuccessful in 20 in the first session and we reschedule them to take 20 in the second session, then their 40 that was in the third session is gone. Okay, because they were locked in at that point in time. They can still register for it, but as Ann will share with you, they're going to have to pay out of pocket. Okay? And this affects about 50% of our students. Okay, there's no limits on how many times they can take a DMA or a DRE in order to be successful. There are limits on who's going to pay for it. So, again, just like with the DMAs, because our technology horse is in the back pasture while the cart's rolling down the hill, there's going to be prereq mismatches, okay? Your test is going to give the student non-course credit for the old reading and English courses, developmental reading and English courses. So, if the student starts at ground zero and needs everything, you won't have any problem registering them. If they pass out of everything, you won't have any problem registering them. It's when they have to mix and match the old reading English classes with the new DRE classes that you're going to have problems. And we will continue to have those problems for 5 years until we get this cycle of students out. Okay? System office has provided the crosswalk for, if they've got all of the DREs, those are assigned to the courses. Or if they've got all of the DMAs, but they can't mix match the 2 of them. Now, we could go behind the scenes on every single student and add those. However, we can't then get them off and you'll be seeing 3 pages of non-course credit. They're still working on that for the multiple measures. Okay? So, just heads up. Also, when you're registering for students and you're looking at their non-course credit, make sure you check the date that was assigned. As Jamie will remind you, 5 years on our placement test. Okay? Any questions on registration at this point? Boy, those are happy faces out there. Okay. I think next one is financial aid. Or no? Oh, we've got an example. Okay. So, we've got a student who currently is in a program of study that requires 140, and we want to get them through their DMA math so that they can take the 140 before it gets killed next summer. Okay? Because then they would have to take 143 that has different prereqs. So, for DMA 140, the student needs 10 through 40. Or excuse me, for math 140, the student needs DMA 10 through 40. Okay? At the end of the first 4 weeks, the student has the following. Okay, he got a 10. Am I reading this correctly?
He passed the first. He
passed the first 10, and then he did not pass the 20?
No. You want me to explain?
Yes, because, sorry, we keep trading this. It's our 3rd presentation, and we all keep doing different slides. Okay?
So if the student passes with a P, he's good to go. He's going to move on to 20. Okay? However, if he doesn't pass 10, then behind the scenes, he was registered for 20, 30, and 40, right? 10, 20, 30, 40. Behind the scenes, I'm going to drop him out of 20, 30, 40 and put him back in 10, 20, 30. Okay? So that's what happens between the mods. So, yes, it is very time consuming because every student has to be moved one by one. And so, and if the student's registered for 4, they don't owe any more money because they already had 4 mods on the books.
So the next one, the student needs to take English 111. He's going to register for DRE 97 and 98 sequentially. At the end of the first session, he completes 97 with grade of P, he can go on to 98. However, if he gets an R, then his 98 is going to be gone because he will retake 97. Behind the scenes, we will re-register him. That means when he comes and says, but I registered for 97 and 98. Well, you did, but then you ended up taking 97 twice. So it didn't wash. You're still going to have to re-sign up for 98 the following semester and pay for it. That R is retake, redo, repay. Yes, ma'am.
I don't remember seeing this LO 141, LO 241. Are they lab sections, and do they require separate registration, or are they automatically put in those if you sign them up for DMA 010?
No, they are. We have the section nomenclature to allow you to see at a glance kind of the time frame. 141 is the first session of a 4-week session, and then the last digit is the actual section number. Same with the 181. Okay.
So 14243444 is for all the DMAs.
Okay.
And then 1828 will be for the jerks.
It might have a P, it might have an H, it might have an L. It might have an O, an N. Do we have any J's or M's yet? And it might have a letter at the end if it's being offered at night. So it might be LO14A, LO24A, LO34A.
That way you can kind of keep up with what section they are and make sure you got a 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4. You can't have 2 4s because then they would be registered for the same class in the same 4 weeks.
We tried to keep it with what the school has already used for the past 25 years. Okay.
Financial aid?
Two words everybody loves to hear, financial aid. Okay, got a little bit of smile. It's very important, as you were told a little while ago, for financial aid recipients to register for everything in their first registration period. And I hope that you understand what a registration period is, because we have 16-week, 12-week, and then second 8-week registration periods. A student can add at any time, but with financial aid, if they take 6 hours or they register for 6 hours during the 16-week session, registration period time, and financial aid locks them in as a half-time student. And then they say, well, I want to take another class during the second 8-week period because I want to finish earlier, or if I've been recommended later to take this test or class, they can. But they're going to have to pay for it out of pocket, and their financial aid will not be adjusted as a 3/4 time student, even though under the curriculum end or the college, they are a 3/4 time student. Financial aid locked them in during their first registration period. Okay? Don't have any questions about that. It's very important for financial aid. And these are federal regulations. It's not fun most of the time. And everybody knows what the statuses are. 12 hours or more is full-time, 9 to 11 is 3/4 time, 6 to 8 is half-time, and 1 to 5 is less than half-time. And that's how we group them to be able to pay them correctly for financial aid. Now the fun begins. So a student registers for 8 credit hours in their curriculum, core classes, and they have 4 hours of DMA. So how are they going to be distributed with financial aid? When did they get that check? Well, the first distribution period, the first time your 10% rosters are due and we get them on time, the student's going to be paid as a half-time student. Well, excuse me, a 3/4 time student, because they're going to have 8 hours of their core classes and 1 DMA by that time. Then, at their last, because they're 3/4 time, to get full-time status, they have to take all of their DMA classes. So when that last class starts and we get that 10% roster in, we can pay them their last increment to make them a full-time financial aid student. Okay? And we're good to go. With DREs, pretty much the same thing. They register for 8 hours in their core classes and 6 hours in DRE. It's pretty much the same thing. We pay them as a 3/4 time student that first time, and then when they're taking their last DRE class, we can make them a full-time student and give them their next disbursement of financial aid. Now, you all need to understand that there's a federal regulation that will allow us to only pay for 30 hours of remedial classes. And you'd be amazed at how many students take more than 30 hours. And they have to meet the requirements for college. But why you need to be aware of this is they register for 12 credit hours of core classes. And then the other remedial class that they need, they're going to be fine as long as they maintain those hours. But if that remedial class is included in that 12 credit hours, we're still going to lock them in as a 3/4 time student, because we will not be able to pay over the 30 hours of remedial classes for that student. And it won't happen until the latter part of probably a year or two in. But that does include transfer hours that we accept for remedials. And it also, of course, dates back to whenever they first began here. If it was 10 years ago and they're coming back for another program, we have to look in financial aid at their cumulative transcript. Okay? Everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. Any questions about that?
Other question was,
Ours.
Huh.
Yeah. Financial aid. Well, in the college streets and R as a repeat, they have to retake it. In financial aid, they didn't pass it. They didn't meet the criteria, so we treat it as an F. So for financial aid purposes, it does go against their GPA. Y'all are very quiet.
Explain the dates.
Towards the latter part of the week, too, I guess. Okay. Any other questions?
Sometimes we have a student, like for example, that may only be registered for DMA 10, 20, 30, and they didn't pass 10 the first time, and so they had to take 10 and 20. And they went, well, I registered for that 30, like the example a while ago. Well, they can take the 30 in the 4th mod, but they have to pay for it out of pocket. And so it's $71.50, which is not bad. And you know, Ms. Brown, I said, well, you just got your check. I'm sure you have $71.50 still left, you know. Or, you know, if you know it's coming and you've already, you know, before you got your check, I kind of announced it in class, you might want to save that $71.50 so you can finish your curriculum or whatever, your DMAs this time, so you can move into your math for the next. It's tricky, but I tell you, our retention has really increased because they only get half, 3/4 of that check, and they don't get the other half until the end. So that's a good thing.
Everybody's good. No more questions. Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to kind of go through the steps for registering for a DRE course. These are all in your booklets. You don't have to take down any notes. It's all in there. But basically, you would look on your advising sheet and find the curriculum English the student is required to take for his or her curriculum. Well, we only have 3 Englishes, so it's a little bit easier than it was for math because we had so many. And you have a crosswalk, and basically you have English 102, 110, and 111. And we have these scenarios. For those of you that sat through DMA training, we're using somewhat of the same synopsis that we did for that one. You know, if you have this is what you have to take. So if you can kind of figure out what your students need, it's pretty easy to figure it out. So then we're going to go to look up a student's placement test scores and tease them. Okay, we'll go there. And we have Don Juan student. Let's see what he has. So if you notice that the placement test, the CPT scores are showing up here. If they had any exempt math transferred in, exempt math or exempt English, it's going to show up here. And the NC DAP just came back this week, and guess what? Their scores show up down here. So you have 3 different places to kind of look to see where the student actually needs to be. So we have some examples later on into the thing, so we can kind of...
Mastering mathematics score is also in that bottom. So if a student scored below and couldn't go into 10, you can see if they've had the Mastering Mathematics, and it's labeled MM for DMA. Mastering Mathematics for DMA.
Oh, I didn't know that. So we all will learn something new, don't we? But there'll be a mastering English and reading over there.
Yeah, I'll
sometime.
have to come up with another acronym.
Okay. So basically, you want to look in TSUM, and then you're also going to have to look in STACK to see if they've taken any English or reading classes already. You know, so we can go to me, STACK is easier and prettier than STACKed. So because it kind of lists all your non-course credit, and then it also lists Don Juan's taking a lot of classes.
No, Don Juan has registered for a lot of classes and completed them.
So, but you would look in here to find out what English or reading they have. Okay? And I don't know that he had any. Okay, so that's our third step. So then using the placement scores, because all your scores, you know, you have another sheet that's kind of on the back of the placement test printout, but all your scores are up here also. We will probably get new one of these because after it was printed, it's kind of hard on my eyes. The one in the booklet is better because the color came out better. But under the intranet is going to be some advising sheets. I think it's easier. Right? As Pam said, don't expect her to read that, but I can get it in. But basically, what I've done for those of you that have looked at the advising sheets under for the DMAs, I put the DMA, you know, I did them across, so it's easier to register students across. If you're looking at the DMAs, it's a lot easier to register from these sheets than look at DataTel. So I've done the same thing with the DREs. So basically, you would, whoops, get it to go in there. But that first line says, that's a DRE 96 and that's a 97. So if they needed 96, 97, you would register them for that line. If they needed 97, 98, you'd register them for another line. Okay? These classes are going to be 2 hours a day, 4 days a week. So it's really going to be a lot for students. Because we got to get all that time in 7 weeks. The courses were designed by the system office 7 hours a week for 8 weeks. Well, we got to have that transition time, so we just flipped it around. So the way I look at it, let's say they need 2 DREs. They're 3 3 credit hours, so that's 6 hours there. Let's say they need 4 DMAs, so that's 10 hours. So they only really need 1 other class to be full time. Okay. Yes, we want them to be in their curriculum doing something that they like, but I think we will have a lot more success if we don't put them in 4 and 5 classes, because all of the classes in developmental now are like, you know, it's going to be 7 weeks and 4 weeks. I mean, it's like, there's a lot of material that's covered in that time. So hopefully we can set 3 or 4 classes would probably be minimum. Because when I'm moving students, I'm seeing students in 5 and 6 classes. Well, I know probably why I'm moving them in developmental, because they have so many other classes to take. So the advising sheets are not on the intranet right now, but they will be there. Or we're going to figure out another place to put them, or I may send them out by email until they get to the intranet, because I know advising starts next week. So, and I've done one for Pittsburgh, Harnett, and Lee County, so you can look and see which ones you need. There'll be DREs and DMAs up there. And then, turn this on. Oh, there you go. I'm impatient there. All right. So then, also I put a little cheat column over in the first column on the advising sheet that tells you what's across 96, 97, or whatever. So, and for the DREs, it might say 1, 2, 3, 4, or DMAs. So there's a little cheat column in the first column. Okay. Make sure we register students that the courses are sequential. You know, they got to take 96 before they take 97. They can't take 98 and then go back and take 97. They got to go in order. And I can't remember if Danette said this, but we are not offering DRE 99 at the moment. So we're only offering the 96, 97, and 98. So you'd register a student for 2 DREs at the beginning of the semester. And if a student will not start the 1/8, or let's say they just need 98 and they don't want to take it till the second semester, you go ahead and register them for that. And this is something we have found that's been kind of difficult for DMAs, especially students that have taken like 10 and 20 and coming back for the 30, and it's the 3rd, 4th week, they forget to come because they forgot the course started. So make sure you remind students, if they're not coming the first 7 weeks, remind them when the first day of class starts. It's on their registration form, so if you'll circle it for them and highlight it, maybe they'll remember. And I always tell them, you got your phone with you all the time. So put your reminder in there, like a day or 2 before, that classes are going to start for my DRE or DMA or whatever this day. I even tell them that when they leave the DMA and we're starting in 3 more days, just to remind them to come back to class. So that'll help. Also, in your booklet, there was a page that was misprinted, but everybody has one that's paper clipped into their booklet. This is I think it's important that we tell students about DREs. You know, what's the DRE going to be? Because if they're coming back, maybe weren't here this semester, but they've taken a reading or an English, and they're going, oh my gosh, you know, what happened to reading in English? Well, if you'll make some copies of this as you advise students back and front, basically we just tell them, how do I know which courses I need to take? Well, at the end of this semester, we're going to give all the students that are in reading in English a little, probably this form with telling them what DREs they need. Okay, so they will know. So will they keep this piece of paper till they see you? I don't know. So we will let them know which DREs they need. And this just is kind of was mirrored off of the DMA ones, which I think was, you know, it kind of tells them when the census date is. They have to be in class by the 3rd day. Third day for day classes, 2nd night for night classes. And, you know, how many absences they can have. And it's just kind of a good information session for them, or sheet for them. Also, we will be offering DREs online. And they will have to come in for a midterm and final. So we haven't got that process down pat, but it worked for DMAs. And so if you will make some copies of this will be great for you to hand out as you talk to students about the new DREs. And then if you have any questions, there's my phone number. It's on your crosswalk and everywhere. So, you know, if you have any questions, please call me. Okay? And so now we're going to let you put it to use. So if this one's too hard on your eyes, there is another one at the back of your book, which came out a lot prettier. So, and Jamie is going to lead you through the scenarios.
Okay. So you want to go ahead and get out your crosswalk for the DREs. We'll run through these 2 quick scenarios. So the first scenario is the student wants to register for English 111. So on your crosswalk, you have it sectioned out 102, 110, and then 111. And these are the test scores she received. Now, she has both AccuPlacer test scores and Compass test scores. So we can always take the highest of whatever she's testing into. So the Compass scores we'll do first. So the Compass score reading, if you look up at the top underneath Compass, the 70 score, what reading class is she testing into? Anybody? Reading 80. Gotcha.
Alright.
And then the Compass writing, the 50. So if you look underneath the Compass writing, she's English 90. Okay. So then we'll do the AccuPlacer scores. So for reading comprehension for AccuPlacer, she has a 70. So what reading class is she testing into for AccuPlacer? Of 90. So it's higher than the 80 for Compass. And then for sentence skills, she has a 50. So she's again testing into English 90. So we would take the highest. So she's testing into reading 90 and English 90. So you would look for that scenario on your crosswalk. And then what DREs is she testing into? And 98, 97 and 98. Does that make sense?
Everybody see that?
Okay.
We'll move on to the second one. So this student is going to again register for English 111, and she received a 64 in reading and a 74 in sentences. But she's got credit for English 90 already in static. So that English 90, she's already taken care of this sentences because she tested English 90, and that's why she took English 90. So that kind of cancels it out. So in this case, we just want to focus on the reading score. Okay, so if you go to English 111, and you see has credit for English 90 only, if you go to that line, then you want to focus on the reading score. So you focus on the reading score of 64, what DREs is she testing into?
97, 98.
She's testing into the 55 to 64 category. So she would have to take 97, 98, and then English 111. That make sense?
Fran, you look confused back there.
Say that one more time.
Okay. Go ahead.
For the scenario 2?
Yes.
Yeah. So the sentence skills, she has a 74. So that kind of already cancels it out because she took the developmental class because she didn't get an 86. So she already took the English 90. Okay. So in that case, we just want to focus on the reading score. So if you go to the line where it says has credit for English 90 only, and then you want to look to see that she has that 64 reading score, and then that'll tell you which DRE she's testing into or would have to take.
And for the development of math advising notes, I just thought it was good to put all this together so you wouldn't have but one booklet to have, because I think if you used your booklet as much as I did, mine fell apart. So I put all the information as far as the math in the booklet also, and that none of this has really changed. Okay, so for those of you that were here for DMA training, they can basically you can finish all your developmental math in 1 year. Okay, we have 8 4-week modules at the moment. We'll tell you something in just a minute. And each module is 1 credit, 4 weeks, and we've already talked about that. The 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, and it basically corresponds to the weeks. There, Janet, you can see. And then you got to pass it with an 80. As we said, all of our P's are ours. Our census date's the second day of class or the first night of class. So we lose quite a few students that decide, I'll just skip out on the first couple of days of class. Well, it's too late when you walk in the door. So they can only miss 2 absences. And that's been I didn't think we would lose a lot of students when that happened, but we haven't lost that many. I mean, they actually do come. So, and the basic skills seems to be working out. We get those students in the second 8 weeks, and we have a class. We have the modules already placed in there so they can register for DMA 10 and 20, so at least they can get 2 mods out of the way. So it seems to be working. And this is basically registering a DMA student, which is very similar to what we just done for a DRE student. Okay, I'm not gonna. And this is the stats for the DMA course, or registering for a DMA course, just like we've done the DREs. Same process, just changed the DREs to DMAs. Sometimes I type DAM a lot of times. So, believe me, we've wanted to add an AD to the DREs. Got that one? Yeah. So, it's like developmentals keeps on changing. All right, keep on going. All right, so we have some other scenarios here for math. So let's go back and just kind of refresh your memory on math. So pull out your math one, which is
On the inside part of it.
inside part or on the back cover here. This one's easier to read.
Okay, so before we start the scenarios, you know that we have math changes coming. So it's going to be very, very important for you to look at which catalog year these students are going to be in. It's like, for instance, this first scenario has Math 171. Well, for summer and prior, the prerequisite for Math 171 is DMA 10 through 80. Starting in the fall, the prerequisite is going to be 10 through 60. So it's going to be extremely important to look into SPRO and see what catalog year they are in. So starting fall 14, the prerequisite for Math 171 is 10 through 60.
It also shows on their eval.
Yeah, it does.
That's something new for me. Okay.
But we'll go over this scenario as the prerequisite stands now, 10 through 80. Okay. So you're looking at this student tested in 10 through 60, okay? And now the proficiency is 7. It used to be a 9, but they lowered it from last year. So proficiency is 7. So you're looking at, she took 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60, okay? And so if you go to your crosswalk, you know 10 through 80 is a prerequisite for 171. So you're looking at, if you know the proficiency is 7, what modules will she need to take for Math 171? Anybody? So she would have to take 20, 40, 50, 70, and 80. Does that make sense? But come fall, she would just have to take 20, 40, and 50. One thing in the fall, if you get a 7 and a 60, you automatically test out 70 and 80. Okay? But say, for instance, you don't get proficiency in the 60, say you got 6 or below, then you would have to take 60, 70, and 80.
Or you could take 65, which is a super module, which we're not going to offer. It would be 60, 70, and 80, which is 12 weeks of information in 8 weeks. So I just don't think we can smush any more into what we already do.
I'm lost. We said a few minutes ago when we were talking about the DREs, there you guys said P or an R. I don't understand what this proficiency is. Why do we have numbers here?
Okay.
I mean, if the proficiency level is 7, then 7 should be P, and if not, then you get an R.
Might want to preface it by, these are the new DAP scores. The NC DAP, which was the test we used for about 3 weeks, is now back. And this is the math DAP. So these are DAP scores. They're not
DMA.
They're not CPT scores anymore.
And they're not grades.
Okay.
They're not grades.
Okay.
Yeah, your NC DAP math, which
Good
started this
question.
past Monday, is going to test students on individual modules. So that way they only take the content they really need towards that math class.
Oh, okay.
So they may just need one module, 20, or maybe they just need 40. So it's not going to be a series of DMAs anymore.
So did everybody understand that first scenario?
Yeah, but would you go back to the catalog year was before and they started in the fall?
Yeah, sure. So with all the math changes, so any students that are summer 14 and before, the prerequisite will be based upon that catalog year. So for Math 171, the prerequisite is going to be 10 through 80. Starting in the fall, the prerequisite will be 10 through 60.
Now, can past students elect to go to the new catalog?
Good question,
Yes.
They can. However, everything in the new catalog will apply.
That I understand, but they can make that election.
There is even a line on here, which I didn't really want to put on here, but it says, new student fall 2014. Under 171, the pink one. So that's what they would need, 10 through 60. So it is very confusing for 171.
You really need to be aware when your program of study is bringing in the new math from the math set, because the prereqs on those higher level maths are all different except Math 110.
And also, they all have a DRE 98 prereq.
So they need to get there.
So that's a big one right there. They have to be completed their English and reading before they can take their math now. Where they used to have to take, they could take their reading while they were taking 140. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
The chairs will be talking in mid-April about the POSs and the math SIP and all that. So really the only programs that are really effective going into fall are AA and AS programs. We'll get into the details of this later on, but if you had Math 101 or 115 or 110 in your program study, you still have that class and those classes through next summer. So the POSs are going to be changing once the math classes are officially rolled in, but we can get into that.
We'll move on to the second scenario. So the student wants to take 151 statistics, and she has credit for math 110. So if you look on your crosswalk and you look underneath math 151 and has credit for math 110, what prerequisites would that student need if they have math 110 already? 50, right? So then you would look up here for her scores, okay? So you want to see if she obtained proficiency in any of those three modules. So 10, she received a 3, 40, she received a 6, and 50, she received a 7. So which modules would that student need to take?
10 and 40.
Right. Then 151.
Any questions you have with these as far as if you're advising students or whatever, please feel free to call me. I'm glad to help you. If you're registering students and you can't get them registered, you can either call student services or call myself or Jamie. And if you're working with a student right then, it doesn't take long to register that student, put them in their DMAs or DREs because you can't do it. Because you do have to probably have override rights, especially if they have a mixed match of reading and writing. We're glad to help.
Explain to them what the DAP will do
Yes,
to the
okay,
scheduling.
we need to go one more here.
But just a quick placement testing update. So as of this week, as of Monday, we went back to the NCDAT math we did for a month last year. So now students will test in reading comprehension, sentence skills, and then the NCDAT math 10 through 60, which is 72 questions. We will be implementing an NCDAP English eventually, probably in the fall sometime. I don't foresee implementing a test in the peak registration period. But that NCDAP English will take the place of that reading and sentences. We expect that the NCDAP English will have a reading and revising section, and they will have to write an essay. Some other helpful testing information. Right now, we're seeing this week, students are taking 2.5 to 3 hours just in the math. So this new implementation is going to take students a lot longer to do the placement test. Proficiency, as we said, is 7 through 12, and it places them out of individual modules. Testing below the floor, we do have to refer students to the TABE if they have a 1 in DMA 10 and did not pass proficiency in 20 through 60. So once they take the TABE, which is the test of adult basic ed, if they do obtain proficiency, then they come back and go through their DMA 10 through whatever sequence. If they don't get proficiency in the TABE, then that's when they take Mastering Math, and then they come back and do 10, 20, whatever they need. Does that make sense? And Lisa already told you that the DMA modules are found in the other tests in TSUM. And again, you can take a combination of tests, combination of sections, credit to place students. So it gets it could get very confusing if students have a lot going on.
Where did the SATs fit in now?
SATs are 450 at the moment.
Uh-huh.
When multiple measures are implemented, which is coming in fall 2015, will be 500.
And they don't go by the writing part, the SAT. I mean, I saw it.
We still just use English and
Just the reading and the math.
reading and the math.
And for right now, both schools are 450, but they're going to move to 500 sometime.
Another year.
I have one more question.
Yes.
I just need to get this in my head.
Okay.
So if a student has credit for a class like Math 121,
All right. What you headed towards? What's your goal, man?
well, my goal is to see what we need.
Okay.
Depends on where you're going.
Yeah, it does depend on where you're going.
Right. But if they have credit for Math 121,
Okay?
then they actually have credit for DMAs 10 through 50,
Yes.
no matter what course they're going into. Just from that course alone.
Yes.
That's all I needed to know.
That's good, the new 120 is gonna be the one that's gonna change the most, I think, in the new SIP. 121, excuse me, yeah. All those numbers are just, yeah, 121's gone, or 120's gone, that's right.
120 will be gone after next spring.
And also on the new crosswalks, as we went through the DMA crosswalk, there were times when Jamie and I would have to get together and try to figure out, well, the student has, as he said, has credit for Math 110, which one, and he wanted to take 140. Which mods would he have to take? He would have to take 10 and 40. So we added all those extra circumstances to the new crosswalk. So you might want to throw out your other one. So you had a pink one and a purple one, and now you have a blue one. So throw out all the other ones and just go to the blue. Let's see what else. We also added some of the chems and physics and stuff down at the bottom that aren't math classes that need to have some prereqs for DMA. So we have those there for you. For the DREs, though, there is a lot of your EDU classes for early childhood are there, biology, med, so there's some other classes for the DREs there. So we appreciate you coming, and I had to come up with some crazy thing because we got DREs and DMA, so development really enjoys doing mass alterations. Because out there, that's what we've done,
Which would be a really good time to go back to the second slide.
Uh-huh.
That this has all come from Raleigh to accelerate achievement.
Yes, that's right. So this wasn't something we decided we wanted to do, believe me. This is something that has been pushed down from the system office to redesign all the DREs and the DMA, so we're on the tail end of doing the redesign for all of them. So, but we do have other wonderful things coming. We have the mass SIP coming. We have multiple measures coming. And so in another year, it's going to be fun to try to figure out where a student needs to go. Yes?
Instructors conference.
That's coming. That's multiple measures.
That's multiple
In
measures.
2015, if a student has a 2.6 GPA and a fourth math,
Last 5 years.
in the last 5 years, can go directly into pre-calc and English 111.
And they don't have that, then the next level they'll check will be their SAT, ACT scores.
And then the next level will be take the placement test. So that'll change the whole scope of a lot of things. Any questions? Thank y'all so much for coming. If your colleagues didn't get to come, please tell them to view the video because all advisors are going to need to know how to do this stuff. And they can come and get booklets from me. Huh? Tickets? I don't think so. Thank y'all very much for coming.
Already. Yeah, I've already got you.
Do I have any questions?
No questions. That's great. We did good.
I know.
Oh, I'm sure. How many, are you, do we need to, you got, who's at the other campus?
Yeah, I've already got it.
So all this will be